My fiancé cheated and said I'd never find better. Now I'm married to the model who had a crush on me since high school. You're never gonna find someone like me, you know that, right? She spat, mascara streaking down her cheek as she clutched my hoodie like it owed her an apology. I didn't say a word. Not because I didn't have something to say, but because I knew if I opened my mouth I might scream. Her name was Candace. She was the kind of woman who always walked into a room like it was built for her. Tall, legs for days, and sharp with her words in a way that could slice you in half before you even realized you'd been cut. We met 3 years ago at a friend's birthday in Denver. I was 2 whiskey sours deep and she asked me if I always laughed at my own jokes. I said only when they were this good. She smirked and told me to buy her a drink. We were fire and gasoline from the jump. I proposed to her after a year and a half. Stupidly, maybe. But at the time it felt right. We were building something, or so I thought. I work as a mechanical engineer for a small firm that contracts with auto startups. Nothing flashy, but I make good money. I just finished building my dream car from scratch, a black 1969 Mustang Fastback, and I thought if I could restore something like that, maybe I could build a life with someone too. Turned out the Mustang was more loyal than Candace. I found out she was cheating 2 weeks after we toured a wedding venue. I'd been noticing little things. Her phone always face down. She started going to yoga at 9 p.m. And once when she thought I was asleep, I heard her whispering on the balcony. The final straw? A text from a guy named Brent popped up on her Apple Watch while she was making us omelets. Last night was insane. I can still smell you on my hands. I wish I was exaggerating. When I confronted her, she cried. Not because she was sorry, but because she got caught. She spun some story about how she felt neglected. That I was married to my work. That I didn't look at her the way Brent did. She said I was boring. That our relationship felt too safe. But then came that line, the one that stuck with me for months after. You'll never find someone like me. Like it was a threat. A curse. I packed my things that night, took my Mustang and left our overpriced apartment in Boulder. For a while, I moved into my buddy Nate's garage apartment and tried to forget what it felt like to have someone betray you in your own home. But here's the kicker, she was wrong. So wrong. That same week, while I was drowning my sorrows at a dive bar on Colfax, someone tapped me on the shoulder. Derek Evans? You probably don't remember me. I turned around and there she was. Maya Lynn. The girl from high school who used to doodle in her notebooks and sit 3 rows behind me in chemistry class. The girl who once handed me a folded piece of paper with a drawing of me fixing a robot and said, "You've got main character energy." And somehow, impossibly, she still looked at me like that. Maya was a model now. Not the runway kind, she did fitness and lifestyle shoots, mostly catalog work for outdoor gear and health brands. But she had that quiet intensity, that thing you can't fake. Turns out she'd had a crush on me back in high school. Never said anything because she thought I was out of her league. Can you believe that? We ended up talking for hours that night. About everything. Life, work, scars. I didn't tell her about Candace at first. I wanted to keep that part locked up. But she could tell something was off. So I told her. And she didn't flinch. I'm glad she's gone, she said without hesitation. Because she was right about one thing. You won't find someone like her. She leaned in, eyes steady. You'll find better. Now here's the thing, I don't know where this story's going. I don't know if Maya and I are endgame. But I know I'm smiling again. I know I look forward to things again. I know that when I drive my Mustang with her in the passenger seat, she sings along to my terrible playlists like they're Grammy-nominated. And I know I have a choice to make. Do I keep letting the ghost of Candace haunt my future? Or do I finally close that chapter for good? About 3 months into dating Maya, we took a road trip to Telluride in my Mustang. Top down, her feet on the dashboard, the mountains curling up around the highway like we were driving through a postcard. It was the kind of silence that felt like music, wind, laughter, and the occasional scream when she caught me going 5 over on a curve. We stopped at a little diner just outside Montrose. She took a picture of us in front of the car, me in a hoodie, her in a flannel and beanie, both of us looking like a RI ad. Later that night, she posted it to her Instagram. I didn't think anything of it until my phone buzzed 6 times in 10 minutes. Turns out Candace saw it. And in true Candace fashion, she messaged me with the emotional subtlety of a wrecking ball. Cute. Glad to see you found your charity case. Don't pretend you're not still thinking about me. Must be weird not having real chemistry anymore. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have words, oh, I had plenty, but because I didn't owe her a damn thing. I showed Maya the messages. Her only response? She smiled, shrugged, and said, "Guess she's still your biggest fan." That was the first time I realized something big. Maya didn't see Candace as competition. Not because she thought she was better, but because she knew who she was. She didn't need to fight for a crown she wasn't interested in. But that didn't mean it didn't rattle me. I kept asking myself, why now? Why does she still care? Then, about a week later, I ran into Brent. Yep, that Brent. He was at the auto shop where I bring the Mustang in for tune-ups. Wearing a Patagonia vest and that same smug face I remembered from Candace's office holiday party where I now realized he had probably already slept with her. He saw me and did this awkward half-wave. I stared. Just stared. Then, just as I was about to turn away, he walked up and said, "Hey, man. No hard feelings, right?" I laughed in his face. Loud. He nodded, then looked at my car. "She always said you cared more about that thing than her." I leaned back against the driver's side door and smiled. "Yeah, and it's still running like new. You can't say the same about your relationship, huh?" He didn't say anything after that. Just walked back to his Ford Explorer, the most boring SUV I've ever seen, and drove off. That night, I found myself staring at the ceiling. Not because I was thinking about Candace, but because I couldn't believe how far I'd come from that moment in our apartment when she said I'd never find someone like her. She was right. I hadn't. And thank God for that. Still, I hadn't told Maya everything, not the full story of how it ended. Not the moment I found the text. Not the exact words Candace used when she called our life too safe. I was scared that if I said it all out loud, I'd poison what we were building. But Maya wasn't stupid. One night, after dinner, she curled up next to me and said, "You know I'm not her, right?" I nodded. "And you don't have to carry all of that alone." I didn't answer right away. Because honestly, I didn't know how to. But I knew I had to say something. To give her the truth, all of it. Which meant I had to make a decision. Was I going to keep shielding her from the mess in my rearview? Or was I ready to let her see everything, the wreckage, the scars, the whole ugly story? Because real love doesn't need you to be polished. It just needs you to be honest. I told her everything that night. We were sitting on the floor in her living room, backs against the couch, the soft hum of the fridge filling the silence between us. I don't even remember how it started, some throwaway line about how weird my week had been, but once it opened, the dam didn't just crack. It burst. I told her about the text from Brent. About the yoga nights that never smelled like sweat or lavender. I told her about the way Candace would come home late, how she stopped laughing at my jokes, how her eyes started scanning the room like she was always waiting for something better. I told her about the night I found the message, how my stomach sank like someone cut the brakes on my body. How she blamed me. How she said I was comfortable, not exciting. Like love was supposed to be a circus act. And then I told her the worst part, the part one hadn't said out loud to anyone. I believed her. Maya didn't flinch. She didn't say, "That's ridiculous," or try to immediately comfort me with a dozen Instagram quote responses. She just nodded. Then said quietly, "Of course you did." It was the kindest thing anyone had said to me in months. We sat in silence for a while after that. She reached for my hand and held it like she wasn't trying to fix me, just let me know I didn't have to sit in the wreckage alone. And that's when I felt it, the shift. That thing in your chest that uncoils when you realize you're not hiding anymore. When your shame doesn't scare the person sitting next to you. When they don't shrink away from your past but lean in closer like they want to understand it. We didn't kiss after that. We didn't say some big poetic line. We just sat there, hand in hand, like two people who'd decided, maybe silently, that they were going to try this, no matter how broken the pieces used to be. But here's the catch, telling the truth doesn't always erase the weight. It just moves it. The next morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number. "Heard you're moving on. Just remember, I know the real you." No name. But I didn't need one. Candace. Again. I stared at that message for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a screenshot, saved it under a folder labeled Reminders, and blocked the number. But the words lingered longer than I wanted them to. I know the real you. That's what scared me most, wasn't it? That maybe the real me was boring. Safe. That I wasn't enough without the adrenaline and chaos and pretty lies. That's the question I had to face now. Was I willing to believe Maya saw something more in me than Candace ever could? Or was I still too wrapped up in the version of myself Candace left behind? For a while, things were good. Like, actually good. Maya and I settled into something real, lazy Saturday mornings, shared playlists, grocery runs where we bickered over almond milk versus whole. It was the kind of domestic bliss that sneaks up on you and makes you realize how starved you were for stability. And then the message came. Maya had just been tagged in a campaign photo shoot for a big outdoor brand. The comments were the usual mix of emojis, admiration, and questions about her gear. But then there it was, buried like a tick in the middle of the feed. "Guess he's into leftovers now. Bold move, Maya." No profile picture. Burner account. But it didn't take a genius to figure out where it came from. I didn't tell Maya about it. I should have. But some insecure, twitchy part of me thought maybe ignoring it would make it disappear. Instead, I deleted the comment and buried it under a few dozen fire emojis and fire queen responses from her followers. That night at dinner, I wasn't myself. Maya picked up on it instantly. Okay, she said, setting her fork down. Who got under your skin? I made up something about a client being a jerk. She didn't press, not because she believed me, but because she was giving me space. That almost made it worse. And I kept thinking, what if Candace didn't stop? What if she keeps pushing until Maya starts to question everything? I didn't want to believe Candace still had that kind of power. But insecurity doesn't need permission. It just needs a crack. A week later, Maya asked me to come with her to a friend's engagement party. She looked stunning, floor-length emerald dress, hair pinned back like a memory from another life. And of course, that's where Candace showed up. I didn't even know she was friends with the couple. But there she was, posted by the bar in a black cocktail dress and that same venom-in-honey smile. Derek, she said, gliding over like she hadn't shattered my life a year ago. Wow. You clean up nice. Maya caught it instantly. Friend of yours. Candace held out her hand. Candace. Ex-fiancée. Maya didn't blink. Ah. That Candace. And just like that, the air thickened. Candace laughed like it was a joke, but her eyes? They were scanning me like I was something she half-owned. I was just telling Derek, she said smoothly, you always had a thing for his fixer-upper charm. Glad he found someone to polish him up. Maya didn't take the bait. She just smiled politely and said, funny. I don't think he needed fixing. But if you ever want tips on how to leave someone without a scorched earth exit, I'd be happy to chat. That shut Candace down. But it lit a fuse in me. We left early. I could feel it, the heat bubbling in my chest, shame mixing with anger. I hated that she still knew how to get under my skin. Back at Maya's place, I paced like a caged animal. Why did she have to show up? Why now? Maya sat on the arm of the couch, watching me. Because she can't stand not being the center of your story. I stopped pacing. What if she ruins this? She tilted her head. You think I'm that easy to shake? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know what scared me more, Candace's persistence or the fact that a part of me still felt like maybe she was right. The question was no longer about whether I was over Candace. It was whether I believed I deserved what came next. And in that silence, Maya asked the question that cracked everything wide open. Derek, are you still letting her define you? The next day, I couldn't focus. At work, I found myself rereading the same email 5 times. The words blurred. My hands hovered over the keyboard, frozen in midair. Are you still letting her define you? That question just sat there in my head, echoing louder than the sound of the servers in the office. I closed my laptop and left early. Told my boss I had a migraine. Which wasn't exactly a lie, it just wasn't the kind you can cure with Advil and a nap. I didn't go home. I drove aimlessly, the Mustang's engine humming beneath me like a steady heartbeat. Eventually, I pulled into an old car wash off Broadway. One of those places where you wash it yourself, quarters in the machine, foam brush and all. It was deserted. As I scrubbed the hood, I watched the suds drip down over the headlights like the car was crying for me. That's when I checked my phone. 2 missed calls from Maya. 1 text. Hey, you okay? I started typing back, then erased it. Because I wasn't. I was knee-deep in a spiral I didn't even realize I'd built for myself. And at the center of it was this question. Why do I still care what Candace thinks? And that's when the answer hit me. Because I wasn't afraid of losing Maya. I was afraid of screwing it up. Of proving Candace right. That I was just this well-meaning guy who looked good on paper but cracked under pressure. That I was safe but forgettable. That even when I won, I didn't know how to hold on to it. It wasn't her voice I was hearing in my head. It was mine. Later that night, I finally went back to Maya's place. She was sitting on the couch in sweatpants, her hair tied up, scrolling through something but clearly not watching it. The second I walked in, she paused it. Didn't say anything, just waited. I sat down, not next to her, but across, like I was afraid of contaminating the air between us. I don't want to lose you, I said, voice barely there. Okay, she said simply. Then don't. I shook my head. It's not that easy. She leaned forward. Derek, if you're still carrying the version of yourself that she built, the guy who wasn't enough or was too much or was boring or whatever else, then we've got a bigger problem than Candace. I didn't know what to say, so I told her the truth. I keep thinking I'm going to mess this up. Not because of you, but because I don't know how to be in something healthy. She exhaled slowly. Then maybe we learn together. Just like that. No ultimatum. No dramatics. Just calm, steady love. And still, something in me panicked. Because what if she didn't really know me yet? What if I still hadn't let her all the way in? That night, I opened my laptop. I wrote Candace an email. I didn't send it, I just wrote. Line after line. Everything I wanted to say. Everything I didn't. At the end of it, I stared at the blinking cursor and realized something. This wasn't about her. It never was. It was about me. Standing at the edge of something good, terrified to believe it could last. But I wasn't going to let that fear make the decision for me. So the next morning, I told Maya something I'd never said to anyone. Not even myself. I don't want to be who I was with her. I want to be better with you. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Then let's start there. It was supposed to be over. That chapter. That life. But of course, Candace didn't know how to stay in the past. It started with a voicemail from a mutual friend. Jason. He was one of the few people I hadn't cut out of my life after the breakup. Mostly because he never picked sides. At least that's what I thought. Hey man. His voice crackled through the speaker. Just a heads up. Candace has been talking. A lot. I paused. Talking? Yeah, he said. She's been telling people that Maya's a rebound. That you're still hung up on her. Said you cried in the parking lot after the engagement ended. I didn't, for the record. But that wasn't the part that made my stomach drop. She told people you begged her to take you back. That the model thing is a midlife crisis move. Midlife crisis. I'm 31. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know how else to process that level of delusion. Jason kept going. Look, I didn't believe her. But some people, they're starting to talk. That night I brought it up to Maya. I don't care what she says, she told me. Cutting vegetables in her kitchen like we weren't having a conversation that could unravel me. But what if people believe it? I asked. She stopped, turned. Do you? That shut me up real quick. Because there it was again, the root of it all. This creeping fear that no matter what I built now, it would always be haunted by the version of me she left behind. That somehow Maya's love was a rental, and the lease could end if she looked too closely. I think I need to do something, I finally said. Maya raised an eyebrow. Like what? I don't know, I said. Something to take that power back. Something final. She nodded. Slowly. Then do it. But make sure you're doing it for you. Not for her. So I did. I wrote a post. Public one. On Facebook. Not because I wanted attention, but because it was the last place Candace still lurked, watching quietly behind fake likes and vague status updates. The post was simple. A year ago, I lost someone who told me I'd never find better. They were right because I didn't find better. I found someone who saw me when I was still hiding, who helped me unpack a version of myself I was too scared to believe in. This isn't revenge. It's a reminder. People aren't objects you get to keep or discard. They grow. They heal. And sometimes they find joy you swore they didn't deserve. And if that scares you, maybe it should. I turned off comments. Didn't tag anyone. Just let it sit. 3 hours later, Candace texted. Wow, that's how you want to play it. I deleted the message. That weekend, Maya and I drove up to Steamboat Springs. No phones. Just snow, hot cocoa, and her feet tangled in mine under wool blankets. We talked about nothing. We laughed about everything. And as I watched her dance barefoot across the wood floor of the Airbnb, hair tied up in a bun, humming off-key to some 90s playlist, I felt it. The weight was gone. Not because I'd won, but because I finally stopped playing. Candace had her version of me. Let her keep it. I was done editing myself for people who only wanted the draft. About a month after the post, I got an email. Not from Candace. From her mother. Subject line, hope you're doing well. I almost deleted it without opening. But curiosity has teeth, and I clicked. The message was short. Civil, almost too polite. Candace told me everything, or her version anyway. I'm not writing to argue. I just wanted to say I always liked you, Derek. I know things ended badly, but if you're ever open to talking, I think it might help her. She's been going through something. Would mean a lot. I read it twice. 3 times. It wasn't accusatory. It didn't beg. It almost sounded like she was saying sorry without saying the word. I closed the tab and stared at the screen for a while. Why now? Why this? I called Maya. Read her the message out loud. Sounds like someone wants to rewrite the ending, she said. That hit me. Because she was right. Candace couldn't stand not having the last word, even if it meant using someone else's voice to get it. For the rest of the day, the email itched at the back of my mind. I kept picturing a younger version of me, the one who would have jumped at the chance to clear the air, to make peace, to feel like maybe I wasn't the villain in someone else's story. But that guy wasn't me anymore. That night, I went for a long drive. No destination. Just the sound of the Mustang and the road under my tires. Somewhere near the edge of town, I pulled over, stepped out, and stood under the stars. That's when the question hit me. Am I moving on, or am I just running from closure? It was a fair question. I didn't hate Candace anymore. But I didn't owe her a damn thing either. Not my time. Not my story. Not my peace. The truth was, closure wasn't something she could give me. It was something I had to choose. I took one last look at that email. Then I hit delete. No response. No explanation. Just a silent, final line through a chapter that didn't need a sequel. 2 weeks later, I found myself back in my hometown. My younger cousin Ellie was graduating from college and Maya wanted to come with me. Said she wanted to meet Derek 1.0, her words, not mine. We stayed at a quiet Airbnb on the edge of town. Old farmhouse. Big wraparound porch. The kind of place where the floorboards talk and the windows sigh. On the second night, we took a walk around my old block. I showed her the house I grew up in, white siding, always one shutter hanging crooked. The mailbox still had our family name on it, though the house had long been sold to someone else. And then I saw it. Candace. She was walking a dog I didn't recognize. Hoodie pulled over her head, no makeup, just regular. Unfiltered. Almost human. Our eyes met. Just for a second. She froze. So did I. Maya squeezed my hand gently. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. Just weird seeing a ghost in daylight. Candace didn't approach. Didn't wave. Just turned down another street and kept walking. And that was it. No dramatic confrontation. No apology. No breakdown in the rain. Just two people who used to orbit each other, crossing paths without gravity anymore. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and realized something. I didn't hate her. I didn't miss her. I didn't even feel sad. I just hoped she'd get whatever help she needed to stop haunting people who had already moved on. And maybe, deep down, she hoped I wouldn't become the next version of her, bitter, burned, still clawing at the past. Maya rolled over and wrapped herself around me like a question mark curling into a period. You're quiet, she whispered. Just thinking, I said. About how far I've come. She kissed my shoulder. I'm proud of you. I didn't respond right away. Just breathed. Let the words settle. Because for the first time in years, I believed them. We got back from the trip and life just kept going. No dramatic twists. No messy flare-ups. Just normalcy, that elusive, beautiful thing I used to think I wasn't wired for. Maya booked another shoot in Seattle and asked me to come. Said we could make it a long weekend. I said yes without even checking my calendar. That's how I knew something had changed. One night, sitting on the couch, she was thumbing through an old high school yearbook I'd forgotten I had. She stopped on a page. Tapped a photo. This was you? She asked, grinning. The shaggy hair, the hoodie under the blazer, the moody glare, you were someone's crush. I looked at it half laughing, half cringing. Definitely not yours, though. She turned the page. Actually, I think it was. I blinked. She looked up. You didn't know? I what? She shrugged. I used to doodle you in the margins of my notebooks. You were always fixing something. Usually a spaceship. Sometimes a sandwich. I laughed harder than I had in weeks. That was the moment I realized I hadn't just moved on from Candace, I had returned to someone I forgot I was. A version of me that existed before the insecurity, the second-guessing, the need to prove myself worthy of someone who never really saw me. Maya saw me. Then and now. And that's what made the final twist so quiet, so simple. I didn't need to win the breakup. I didn't need to prove Candace wrong. I just needed to remember I was always enough. I proposed to Maya 3 months later. It wasn't flashy. Just me, her, and a trailhead at sunrise. I didn't even get the words out before she said yes. Candace never found out. Or maybe she did. Maybe someone told her. Maybe she saw a post or heard it through whatever circle she still haunts. But if she did, I hope she understood. She was right. I didn't find someone like her. I found someone who made me forget I ever wanted to. Update, 1 year later. We're married now. Maya wore a navy blue suit and hiked down a forest path barefoot to meet me. The only guests were close friends, a few family members, and a dog we rescued together last fall. We danced to a song neither of us knew the lyrics to. Didn't matter. We were finally writing our own story. And for the first time, I didn't look back. Sometimes closure doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it's just the sound of someone calling your name and you turning toward the voice instead of the echo.